Hi everyone, it's Alistair Clark here from stuntlives.com. Just going to introduce a video for you with a guy called Keir Beck, all the way in Australia. Really, really nice guy. First time I heard about his stunt work was when I watched Mad Max Fury Road, where he won 2 Taurus Awards. That includes the Best Stunt Rigging and Best Stunt Coordination. And when I've seen some of his other work, I just been blown away with it. You know, he's done films like Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions, Casino Royale, the James Bond film with Daniel Craig, and then also there's Sherlock Holmes, and there's so many other films that I really, really love watching because of the action, and he's responsible for the stunts. So future films that are coming out with that he's done the stunts or actually done the stunt coordination include Hacksaw Ridge, the new Mel Gibson film coming out, and then also he's planning the new Pirates of the Caribbean film. Anyway, so I just will leave you to watch this interview, and I hope you enjoy it, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now. When you filmed Mad Max, you know, I was reading somewhere like 8 months filming in the desert.
Yeah, in the desert in Namibia.
Oh man, that must have been quite intense.
It was. You know, when I look back at it now, I go, Jesus, you know what? It's amazed that we got through that 8-month period because it was 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, anywhere between 10 and 16 hours a day, every day.
Wow.
So it was, so it was pretty full-on experience.
Yeah, right, okay. So has that been, let's say, the longest shoot or probably maybe the most difficult, but the most intense shoot you've ever done then?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, it was tense because of the locations, you know, and the travel time between like if you were at one location in the morning, you had to go somewhere else in the afternoon. It's sometimes a 2 to 3 hour drive between locations. So, you know, that got a bit, you know, it kind of got a little bit mundane, but at the same time, you're in Namibia. There's no real speed limits. It's kind of interesting, and you know, you sort of made the most of it. So it was for that purpose, it was pretty intense. But you know, 8 months is a fairly long shoot. But you know, I think Matrix films were 11 months down in Sydney, but that was turning up every day to go into a sound stage.
That's true. So I was going to say, with the say the working conditions, like because you have to prepare for, say, Mad Max in the desert, the Matrix in a sound studio. How do you prepare for those type of environments then?
You know what? I don't think you can prepare for them mentally because you don't really know how it's going to behave for you. You know what I mean? Like Namibia, for example, you're in the desert, so you kind of just go, right, I guess we're in the desert. So I guess preparation-wise, it's sort of a personal thing. You go, how can I stay comfortable in this environment for this amount of time? So you obviously, you know, you prepare yourself so you can stay comfortable in the cold, in the heat, and you also surround yourself with good people that don't lose their shit, you know, and you've got a good team around you that can be supportive, and you can support them and they support you, and you just sort of move through it, you know. You just sort of, before you know it, you pop out the other end, you go, wow, that was a hell of a journey.
Yeah. So you said about your team. So how many, because I take it you work with, say, regular people most of the time, you know, your core team. How many people do you work with closely?
You know, usually on Fury Road, I had a core team of 4 other guys, and then I picked up some local crew in South Africa, and I had 4 of those guys as well. So, you know, but I always have the same core guys. I've been working with the same sort of group of guys for the last 10 years plus, actually. So, you know, and you tend to, once you get comfortable with people, you tend to just stick with them because you know when they get hungry, they get grumpy, or you know when they're tired, and they all know you and you know them, and you can work together quietly without going, oh, why is everyone so quiet today? You know what I mean? So it's as you know, in the film industry, you've got to have that dynamic, otherwise you drive each other nuts.
Completely.
That's long hours, and it can be quite intense and stressful.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. No, that's I was thinking that because you would need that close team because like, as you said, like how each other work, how each other react, and because you need that really, you need that trust, don't you, with what you do?
Oh, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with people's lives. You know what I mean? You got to be able to trust the core team that they can work sort of harmoniously and synergistically towards a certain goal that has to have a particular outcome, which is really important in the film industry, especially when you're dealing with, like high-end stunts that if something goes wrong, it's going to go wrong really badly.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have 100% trust in everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a critical thing, really.
Definitely. So, with your stunt work, have you had any injuries that what have been the worst injuries that you've obtained personally, and how long did it take you to recover from them?
I've had in the sort of 18 years now, I've had a really lucky and sort of pretty well injury-free career. But I've had a couple on the Matrix where I probably got my worst injuries. I was in a big hydraulic sort of machine, like one of those Sentinels, the monsters. Dion had grabbed hold of me and it was shaking me around, and I came away from the bracket at the harness that I was in, and a steel spike about the size of my thumb got me in the ribs.
Ooh, nasty.
The cartilage in my rib cage and poked a bit of cartilage into my liver.
Oh my God! Right.
It wasn't a very good outcome. So that was, a few days in the hospital.
Just a few days.
Yeah, and made sure. Because apparently your organs heal really quickly if they're not too badly damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So I said just a little tear in your liver, but it'll just days later it'll be all good. But my ribs are still funny. All these years later, they're still never the same. So I kind of that's nothing really. I've no broken bones, touched some wood, or any of that sort of stuff. So I've been pretty lucky. Hey.
Right. Yeah. True. God, because. I was going to say, because obviously The Matrix has got a few special effects compared to say Mad Max. That because I love Mad Max because it went back to the basics. It had very minimal special effects. So do you think CGI and CGI spells the death of stunts?
Yes, yes and no. I think yes because technology will always advance and create clever and interesting ways to make humans move, and obviously CGI technology. Guys who work in CGI and digital and visual effects want to have that technology at the forefront of filmmaking because it keeps them busy, and it is a form of technology that's advancing rapidly. But what I think counters that expansion of use of technology is that the audience will always want to see a real human being doing something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think there's a counter contra deal going on where the technology is advancing and everyone can be impressed and wowed by that advancement. But at the same time, people go, yeah, but I also like to see someone actually do something. And I think that's what Mad Max proved and reinvigorated audience with that, but rather than watching an Iron Man or those sort of the DC films that are coming out with the visual effects and the fantastic flying and the big stunts, but you get sort of I suppose you just become immune to it and you go, oh, it's just another guy flying around in a suit. Whereas Max, I think, had actual, it was everything we did was real. And it was real people, getting flung about and throwing off stuff and crashing things. So I think there's going to be a balance.
Definitely. Well, somebody was saying to me that one of the best, a stunt coordinator should work with a visual effects supervisor because that together, those you can come up with special effects and real stunts, if you like, and to make it as realistic as possible and as amazing as possible as well.
Absolutely, and you know what? That's the best synergy to have. Because a lot of the times, what you see is the stunt department will compete with the visual effects department to say, oh, we'll do that. And the visual effects department saying, no, well, we'll do it. And, we'll have the guy jump off the cliff and the stunt department will go, we'll jump the guy off the cliff. But like you say, if you could work synergistically together to create, one department does an element, the other one enhances or incorporates their work into the element to create something that's
Definitely.
visually spectacular, but also it can make it far safer.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the perfect win-win outcome, really.
Completely. Yep. So have there ever been some, say, stunts that you've done, you're thinking, well, before you've done a stunt, you're thinking, whoa, I can't do that. Or the other side is like, you've done the stunt, and you think, whoa, I can't believe I just done that.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, that's a good question. Because I've got this weird nature about me that can't knock something back.
Right.
As far as when someone says, oh, we want to do this, and I look at it and I go, you want to do fucking what? But my brain is saying, I'll do that. You know what I mean? I'll find a way of doing that. So I suppose as far as the rigging stunts and sort of, human movement and putting people into exceptionally dangerous situations, but controlling the outcome very precisely, is that I sometimes recoil at what people have asked me to do, especially on Fury Road. I'd kind of physically go, oh wow, that's like, that's pretty far out there. But my brain is saying, oh yeah, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't have any particular answer to the question or any particular knowingness of how I'll go about doing it, I just have a knowingness.
Right.
So but when I create things that are exceptionally, that are really on the edge of that sort of stuff, I sometimes can slip back into being the not the observer of it, but I can again get caught up in it and going, what have I created? This could kill somebody.
Yeah.
I created a monster. You know what I mean? So you got to always kind of remain, when you're at that, when they're calling action, you got to be the observer of everything, because you can slip into suddenly making a hasty decision or doubting, having some form of doubt about what you've done and your decision, or you're doubting your timing cue that you've put in place, or really dangerous place to be, because at that stage of the game, you haven't got an exit path.
True.
The exit strategy would be catastrophic as far as like, I don't want to do this now. People are going to turn around and go, well, you better pack your bags, or you better have a very good reason. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, I've never been in that situation, because I always tend to go into a different place when I'm working like that, and just very cautiously. And I tell everyone, this is my analogy to this stuff, is that I'm a wolf behind a tree, and I'll pop my head out every now and again and have a bit of a look, make sure the coast is clear, then I'll duck back in for cover and think about what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I never go out there guns blazing. So I'm always so cautious.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like the analogy as well. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So how do you actually come up with the stunts that you coordinate? Because they're just incredible. How the imagination that you had to actually pull off those stunts in The Matrix, like Sherlock Holmes as well, and obviously Mad Max. How did you think of these stunts?
That's a good question, because a good example of that was, I did this rig for Ghost Rider years ago, which was the guy crashing the motor. Ghost Rider crashes his bike before he becomes a Ghost Rider.
Reverse 12-1. Goes up to the spreader bar. Pull in reverse 2-1, make 24-1. It's 48 meters to travel. Slack catcher on a reverse 3-1, on a reverse 2-1 on the spreader, on the bungee cream tension to catch all the slack at the end of the travel. Up there's the headed truss, 400mm box, down 3 40mm highlines on. There. start mark end, break end. Again, trust same deal. For our brake system, going to the clutch, going through these strands, bungee to all tail, which is our first point of braking. One. Yeah, they said you had a high-speed accident, mate. What happened? Oh, God. Decapitate.
That's in case I got an itchy belly button.
Right.
That was a realization to me all those years ago that creative stuff doesn't come from thinking about it.
Mm.
You know, because I used to always, people would ask me, oh, could you, we want to rig this, or can you organise that, or could we do this sort of stunt? And I'd go away trying to think of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, trying to think of the answer, would you? But it never comes if you try to think about it. So what I realised is that someone tells me what they want to achieve, and most of the time nowadays I'll build it as they're speaking. I'll design it as they're going. So by the end of the conversation, I've kind of got it.
Mm-hmm.
But previous to that, I used to worry about how I'd come up with an idea. Because the people start putting pressure on you. Like Casino Royale was a doozy because they asked me to do that opening sequence. So I flew all the way over I told them what I wanted. I flew to the Bahamas and I got there and I saw the location. I shit myself because I thought, I've got myself into a real pickle here. Mm-hmm. And then I started doubting, being there, and I doubted my ability. But at the same time, I knew somewhere inside me I could do it. So I just got to let go and I go, you know what, the idea will come to me at 1 o'clock in the morning, or at breakfast, or at dinner, or at some obscure time, sitting on the toilet, wherever, it'll just turn up.
Right.
And that's how it kind of happens. I can't really explain it. It'll just turn up, and when it does turn up, I'll write it down really quickly because if you don't write, I look at it as like it's vibration. You get hit by vibration, which is an idea. It gets given to you, and if you don't write it down, it'll disappear and you'll forget what it was.
Right.
Which I've proved many times to myself.
Okay.
And but then once I've got the idea, then it's like a seed. I'll stick the idea in a pot and I'll water it and grow it, and then I can think about it.
Yep.
The practical sides and what works, and then it'll expand and grow, and it comes really quickly. Then it happens really fast. So the evolutional, it's like thinker blocks growing in your mind, and then you go, and you go, that's it, and that's what you write down, and you tell everyone, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, really? No, we can't do that. And then you get bombarded with naysayers and bombarded with disbelievers and bombarded with people with degrees in engineering and physics say that things aren't physically possible and engineering-wise possible to do. So then you've got to come back to the real physical world and use the intellect to defend your ideas, which are intuitive. That makes sense. So it's kind of weird the way it works.
Okay. No, I like the thought processes, definitely. It's incredible how you think of that. I'm impressed. I really am. So obviously, you specialize in stunt rigging. How did you start? How did you get into the stunt industry in the first place? And then how did you end up going into the stunt rigging?
Yeah, okay. I guess, I wanted to do stunts when I left school. And my dad was like, no, you got to go off and get a qualification. So I followed that path, and I studied horticulture, and then I got a scholarship to study arboriculture, tree surgery in the States. So I went over there, and but prior to that, I was into triathlons and cycling and kayaking and all that sort of. I rode horses and motorbikes as a kid, and grew up on a farm basically. So I had sort of a physical background, but I always wanted to do stunts. But then I ended up going down the arboricultural side of life. So while I was in the States, I got into rock climbing and then alpine climbing, and throughout the 90s that developed into mountaineering, and my tree surgery skills, I just earned money to go off on climbing trips. So I built up a really over 10 solid years of pure climbing and working with ropes and doing a lot of physical activity. And then I bumped into a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh, are you still going to do stunts like you said you were at school?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I should go and do that." So within 2 months, I had packed my bags and moved from West Australia to Queensland. And I basically got to Queensland, and a week later, a friend of mine said, "Oh, come in, they're doing a test. The stunt department are doing tests to put a crew together, a stunt crew and a rigging crew for Pitch Black." And I went along for the day, and they were like climbing on this truss stuff, and I could climb anything. So I just climbed up, and I got a job on Pitch Black, and then I started doing stunts, and I never thought about the rigging. I never thought that having those core skills of knots and splicing and climbing and ropes and harnesses and pulley systems and all that, because in a tree you learn a lot about mechanics and physics, lowering branches and moving and shifting weights around a tree without killing yourself. So I had lots of experience of that, but I never put two and two together until pretty much the Matrix 2 and 3 came along. And then I was just purely a stunt performer then, and then I started. They said, "Oh, could you do be the Australian sort of stunt rigger for it?" I'm like, "Sure." So then I started to realise the value of all that stuff that I'd learned over the 10 years, and then I started rigging my own stunts. I'd rig myself, and if I had a gag to do, I'd rig it myself and perform it myself, and I could make it safe, I could change it, I could alter the way I was moving it around or whatever. And then people were saying, "Oh, could you rig our gags for us?" And then that's sort of how the evolution went.
Right. Wow. Okay. No, that's how say you had that confidence as well to believe that what you're doing is correct compared to say the stunt coordinator would. I don't know whether you've had to have those say differences of opinion where the stunt coordinator said no, do this, and you say I know what I know, so I'm going to stick to what I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a lifelong battle, that chestnut. But I think nowadays, in the last 8 to 10 years, I've had a pretty free run, and especially in the last 5 years, I don't have that debate anymore. Like I used to have that debate all the time where a stunt coordinator would go, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm putting it like this and I'm doing it like that." And the way I always saw it was if I was moving a person or myself around in a tree, I knew about the angles that I could create to get a certain effect. If it was like lowering a branch in this direction, I knew that the point would have to be here, but slightly this way to stop it. You know what I mean? I could just tell. I just had a knowingness about how that stuff could work with angles and physics.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a disaster at school and never attended one maths lesson or anything like that. So, but I kind of learned it all from trees. So dealing with other people with experience was always a challenge, because I could, as soon as they would say what they were wanting to do, and if they explained their version of something to me, I could tell intuitively that it wouldn't work to the way they thought it would. So I always would be having debates and humouring people to go, "Okay, well, we'll do it your way, and I'll let it atrophy and die when it doesn't work, and then we'll put my," you know what I mean? So as diplomatically as you can, you sort of wiggle your way through the industry like that. But the last 5 years, it's been nice that I can turn up and they just go, "Do your thing," and I'm like, "Thank you very much."
Yeah, that's good. But then you've worked hard to get where you have, so fair enough. The fair play to you.
Oh, thanks, bro.
Yeah. So, what's been your favourite stunt that you've choreographed or even performed in? What's been your favourite one that you can say, "Wow, that's my favourite one," and why is it your favourite one as well?
Okay, well, there's probably a few. There would be probably one of the most memorable performing ones that I did would be that Hell coat check on Matrix Revolutions, the third Matrix. We were all running around upside down on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good because we spent 8 weeks rehearsing and developing that rigging system and that performance, and then we spent 3 weeks in that set shooting it with the Wachowskis, and that was really my first huge stunt gag where I rigged the entire thing and also performed in it as well. So I had a real intimate relationship with all of the stuff that went on in that room over that period of time, and working with the Wachowskis and it's just the whole memory of the Matrix and working with those actors and stuff was pretty cool. I mean, I've done hundreds of small gags and small bits and pieces, but that's probably one of the most memorable because I performed in the rigs that I set up, and I set up everyone else's stuff. I think the biggest memorable thing still would be Casino with the crane jumps, because it was just such a massive undertaking and such a and I remember Barbara Broccoli talking to me about the gag, and Martin Campbell, the director, talking to me about it, saying why it was so important that this stunt was done like how they wanted it to be done, and why it had to be done like that for sort of kickstarting the new franchise of Bond. So
introducing Daniel Craig as well. So I know exactly what you mean. Like making a great impression from the start, get go, where people can say, yes, I like Daniel Craig. This is going to be the best James Bond ever.
Yeah. So that was cool, but although I kind of felt the pressure, that was 11 weeks I was there doing that, and I really felt the pressure from everybody because that gag was so important to them, and I spent so much money organising. I asked for a 200-ton crane, and it came in pieces from England,
right,
which I didn't realise. So when I got there, I'm like, wow, what are all these containers with all these? And I said to the Gary Powell, I was like, it looks like a machine of some sort in here. And he looked at me, gave me this weird look, and he goes, that's that effing crane that you asked for. I'm like, what? He said, yeah, they don't have a crane that big in the Bahamas, so they shipped one from England and then built it. So as soon as I found that out, the enormity and the scale of kind of what I got myself into dawned on me. I was like, wow, I better come up. I was in big trouble.
Brilliant. So it's like a IKEA furniture, but a giant.
But there's a 200-ton crane. You contain it.
Oh God! How long did it take?
One Allen key.
Yeah, exactly. How long did it take you to build that crane then?
Oh, you know what? They had a company come over and do it, and they spent a good couple of weeks. There was 3 or 4 weeks putting that thing together because we had another substitute one in the interim, but it wasn't good for anything. It was too small, So I remember when it all came together and it was there, big green gleaming new crane. I was like, wow, okay, so this is real. Real.
Nice.
So that was memorable. And obviously everything on Fury Road was exceptionally memorable because that was for me like the biggest playground ever, as far as I had no restrictions on budget. I could do whatever craziness I could create. They were just like, you just do your thing, whatever. I was like, copy that.
If people wanted to know more information about you and what you do, how can people find out about that?
I guess that's a good question. I mean, there's little bits and pieces, I guess, from IMDb about my credits and I'm actually, funny enough, I've actually started putting a website together because I get so many emails from people wanting to know about stunt rigging particularly. So I've started doing a website called stuntrigging.org. It's very early days, and I'm going to have all my content on there about all the rigs that I've ever done, and there's thousands of pictures and just hundreds of little video clips and bits and pieces. So I'm starting to put that together so I can get more information out to people since I get so many inquiries. But I kind of guess,
And you run some courses as well, don't you?
Yeah, I've been running the course here in Australia, over in Berlin, and around the States. So I'm kind of expanding that next year or later this year and next year into Beijing and Toronto.
Wow,
which is quite fun. Yeah.
Wow. So quite intense then.
Yeah, they're hard work, the courses, and I just ran 3 of them in a row in Berlin. It killed me. Had asthma and the pollen and jet lag and some flu that Ralph gave me. And so, but yeah, they're good fun, and I think it's kind of valuable that people, you know, so many people are interested to know about rigging and or more so the philosophy and mindset that sets you up to be able to do a particular craft, whether it's rigging or stunts or whatever it is. So, you know, I kind of, they're hard work, but I kind of feel like it's enjoyable, and I've got so much information. If I didn't get rid of it, my head would pop, I think, blow up.
If people wanted to get into the stunt profession, how would you say, or what would you say to people to get into it? What would you say?
I guess like I know in Australia there's a grading procedure. In the UK there's the UK registry, which is probably the most full-on training sort of registry in the world as far as getting qualified. But I mean, I tell people that, you know, that come to my gym and train that want to get into stunts, I say that you have to ask yourself what you value most, why you're doing it, what are your goals, what you know, it's fine to have a goal, but there's got to be a greater overriding reason why something would want to attain a goal for a particular reason. So I kind of say, you know, that to become a stunt performer, if you're serious about it, it's a global business. You don't get boxed into the boundary conditions of your neighbourhood. You got to think globally about the industry, and the key thing that I tell people is you've got to train your ass off. You've got to be the best. You've got to aim to be exceptional. Whatever it is that you fights or falls or bikes or cars or trucks or, you know, whatever your mojo is I just tell people just become exceptional. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's a simple strategy, and it's virtually a mathematical equation. The more hours and time you put into something, the greater the results that you'll get back in return. So I just tell people to just go out and train and keep yourself modest and become exceptional, and then let the world see what you can do. You know, don't tell everyone, show them what you can do, and then you know, keep low profile about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay. No, on that note, that's a great way to end this chat. So thank you so much for chatting to me. I really appreciate it. I know you're very, very busy, so yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's been long enough trying to catch up to have a chat.
Yeah, I know, but it was worth it, definitely. So thank you very, very much. Well, thank you so much for watching the interview, and I hope you enjoyed that interview with Keir Beck. As I said, really, really nice guy, very busy, so I appreciated him fitting me into his busy schedule. If you enjoyed that interview and if you want to see a lot more, please subscribe to my website, which can be found at www.stuntlives.com. Many thanks, and I'll speak to you soon.